Welcome and thank you for standing by. All participants will be in a listen-only mode for today's conference. After the presentation, we will conduct a question-and-answer session. To ask a question, please press star 1. Today's conference is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. I would now like to turn the call over to Ms. Stacy Vidal.
Great, thank you. Welcome to today's webinar on 2012 data tools for reporters and editors. I'm Stacy Vidal from the Census Bureau's Public Information Office. I'm part of our team that handles questions from media and sometimes other organizations or the general public on a day-to-day basis. In the past few weeks, we've been making a lot of changes to our website and to some of our online data tools. With the start of the new year, it seemed like a good opportunity to touch base with you, highlight some of these data tools, and point you to some other resources. No doubt, 2012 will be another busy year for news. Through this webinar, we want to equip you with the statistical resources you'll need as you cover a variety of stories this year. Today I'm going to give you an overview of what kinds of information are available and walk you through some basics of using our online tools to find that information. I recognize that among the audience today we have varying levels of experience with using our website or using our data. If you're less familiar with finding our data online, please don't be intimidated, even if it seems like I'm throwing a lot at you at once today. The point I want you to take away is that the Census Bureau has a lot of statistical information covering a broad range of topics. I'll try to point you to a couple easy places to start your search, but the bottom line is, if you get stuck, give us a call. We're here to help. With that said, I first want to give you an overview of the types of topics we cover to let you see how we may have some statistical information available that are relevant to the stories you're currently working on or may work on in the coming year. You'll hear us say that the Census Bureau measures the nation's people, places, and economy. You may already be familiar with how we measure the people of the United States, for example, from the 2010 census. But we also conduct annual surveys that tell us more detailed characteristics about the nation's population, surveys like the American Community Survey and the Current Population Survey. You see here that these surveys tell us even more things about the population like education, foreign-born, the makeup of families, language ability, and a whole host of other things. Some of you may be less familiar with how we measure the nation's economy. Well, for one, some of it is already tied in with how we measure the population. For example, the American Community Survey and Current Population Survey both give us information, though in varying detail, about economics of people, families, and households. So we get information about income, poverty, health insurance, employment status. But we also collect information from the perspective of U.S. businesses. In fact, later this year, we'll be sending out questionnaires to businesses to collect information for the 2012 economic census. The economic census takes place every 5 years and is the benchmark for numerous annual, quarterly, or monthly surveys. These surveys and the economic census provide us information on topics like the number of businesses in a given industry, their sales and receipts, the number of employees, etc. Then, to take it from yet another perspective, the Census Bureau also provides information on the economic health of state and local governments. For example, we provide information on the types of taxes they're collecting, how much they're spending on, say, education or law enforcement. We also provide information on their pension system. Finally, that third piece is places. In many cases, we provide local level data that will help you localize your story, and I'll try to point you to some of those tools today. So with that, let's dive into the actual tools. And now I'm going to transition from my PowerPoint slides to go onto our actual website. But you'll see as I'll skip through the slides later that I've left you some slides that you can download from our press kit page, so you can go back and reference what I'll be walking through live on our website. So bear with me as I get back to our home page. So right off the bat, just before the new year, we launched a refresh of our home page. So if you've been to our website before, you've probably noticed some big differences. One thing I want to point out to you, though, is that the navigation is somewhat similar. We've tried to, with the launch of this new redesign of the website, to improve the navigation and make things a little easier to get to, hopefully a little and more interesting to the broadest possible audience. If you're familiar with our old website and the center column and how that was arranged, you might notice that at the very top of the page, these people, business, geography, data, and newsroom links are very similar to those options that were on the center column previously. I'm also going to scroll down to the very bottom of our homepage at census.gov, and you'll see this large blue section. It has many of those same breakdowns about us, find data, business and industry, etc. So if you're used to finding something on the center column of our old homepage, usually these are the two places that you'll still be able to find that same information. Plus, you might notice we've added a lot more options. The next thing I want to point out is that we have this slider, or as we call it, in this upper left corner of our homepage. And you'll see it cycles through about 6 different things. This usually has some of the latest information. So this is a good place to watch. You'll see scrolling through there right now, number 3 has the press kit information, or links to the press kit for today's webinar that we're in right now. Also in the center of the page, just a little bit below the slider, you'll see the Census News section. This is a great place. The Census News and the slider are great places to watch for the most current information that's just come out. Next, I want to take you to one of our newer data tools that's come about as a result of this redesign, and that is our Economic Indicators Dashboard. So just over here in the upper right corner of the website, just next to the slider. So you'll see how to navigate this indicator dashboard is you use the arrows at the very bottom of the dashboard. You just scroll through. There's 13 different indicators here that all tell us something about the economic health of the country. Many of these go to the national level, some tell us about regional level, and a couple tell us even about states. You'll notice that for each one of the indicators, it gives an estimate of whatever the current figure is for that particular topic, plus it'll give an arrow, whether it's going up or down. You might also pay attention to these little star by the arrows that tell you whether the change is statistically significant or not. That star tells you that it's not a statistically significant change. And that's one of those concepts you'll hear us talk about a lot at the Census Bureau. For any of these, if you want more information about that particular indicator, just click right on the name. For example, I'm going to click here on this construction spending one. And that's going to take me to this longer page that has a lot more information about each of those indicators. For example, you'll see under this construction spending one, it has a link to the current press release. You'll see there's archived information as well. So I'm just going to hit back and take me back to the home page. I also want to point out that the most recently released items will show up at the top, and we'll be continuously updating this. If you want to grab this and put this on your own website, there's a little box here at the top of the indicator dashboard that looks like greater than, less than signs, those little brackets. If you click on that, it'll just pop up the code that you could then copy and paste and embed this dashboard onto your website too. So I'm just going to hit the close button, takes me right back. The next thing I want to show you is quick facts. Over on the left, still here on the home page, you'll see this blue box that says quick facts. This is a great tool to get a quick fact sheet about your state, your county, or your city. So as an example, I'm going to use this drop-down box, and I'm going to click on Colorado. Once I've selected Colorado, it's going to take me to the quick facts about Colorado. You'll notice as you scroll down the page, it gives you a variety of different information. The top 2 sections come from the 2010 census. For any of these, if you want to check what's the source of this, you can click on the little eye icon that's to the left of the item, and that'll pop up some information. So you see here that this item was from the 2010 census. I'm going to hit the back button to take me back to the fact sheet. You'll also notice that there's a column, since I selected Colorado, so it gives me a column for Colorado, but it also gives me one for the United States as a whole. As you scroll down, there are 2 sections in the middle that right now cite 2005 through 2009 as their data source. These come from the American Community Survey, which is one of those annual surveys I mentioned that collects a lot of detailed characteristics about the population. We actually have more current information available from the American Community Survey, and I'll show you in a few moments where to find that elsewhere on our site. But we will be updating it here as well in the coming weeks. But But for now, just know that these are some relatively recent data about various social characteristics, people living in the same house, foreign born, language, education, etc. Also some information about housing. As you scroll further down the page, you'll see some information about the business side of things for Colorado. And the first few items actually come from the county business patterns, which I'll talk about in a moment in this great interactive map we have. And below that, the next two sections have information from our latest economic census, which was in 2007. So that's kind of the fact sheet. I'm going to scroll back up to the top, and I want to show you how you can select within Colorado. There's a drop-down box for select a county. You could click there, or you could select a city. I'm going to do that and select Denver, just by way of example, and then hit go. You'll see it gives you the same fact sheet, but for now, the columns on the right, now it gives you for Denver and then for the state of Colorado. So you'll see, just within a few clicks, we've gotten to a lot of information, a good snapshot about the city or the state or even the nation as a whole. So I'm going to take you back to the Census Bureau's homepage now and show you the next one. To do that, I'm just going to hit U.S. Census Bureau in the very top left corner of the page. So now I want to show you that interactive map I promised. As you scroll down the page just a little bit, over on the left, below Quick Facts actually, you'll see the graphic of the map. So I'm going to click on that graphic. I'm going to scroll down a little bit to give you a little better view. For this map, as we dive into it, you'll see that it gives us a lot of information down to the county level about the businesses within the United States or within a given state. There will be options for pulling in the demographic data from the 2010 census, and I'll show you that in a moment. For now, you might notice these little circles that are sort of dancing around on the screen. Each of these 10 different circles are a top 10 list about something in the nation. For example, I'm scrolling over this one to the south of Florida, and this gives you the top 10 counties with the most bars. So some of these are kind of fun facts, the top 10 lists. Some give you top 10 states for a particular item, like this one for auto repair shops. Others give you for counties. To close those, you would just hit that X in the top right of the box. I should point out, too, that as we dive in, this is strictly about businesses that have employees. So if you're self-employed, you're not going to see those data reflected here. Maybe there are some other exclusions about government employees, some agricultural businesses that also aren't captured here. But the bulk are, and now let's dive in a little further. So to do that, you just click on this red arrow that says Explore the Map. So as this loads, it's going to give you a little screen, and you'll see this throughout. It'll pop up a little screen. They'll try to give you a little direction about what you need to do next. So there's this box at the bottom where you can type in a city, a state, or a zip code, and then it'll take you from there. I'm going to type in Arkansas as an example, and then I'm just going to hit Enter on my keyboard. You'll see it'll zoom in, and then it gives you a map, and these are all counties within Arkansas, and it has varying shades of green and yellow on the screen. Over on the left is the legend, which tells you what it is we're looking at. So this is telling us the total number of businesses, and the darker the green, the more businesses. As I kind of scroll over the different counties, you'll see it pops up a little pop-up box. For example, I'm scrolling over Pulaski County, which is surrounds Little Rock. You'll see it says 12,162 businesses. If I click on the county, it's going to pop up a box that has a little bit more information. You'll see that for all of these, it will show the total number of businesses, and it also gives the total population for that county. This one also shows the annual payroll and then the number of employees as of mid-March. To close that, I'm just going to use the little X in the upper right corner. And so you could do this with all of the other counties as well. I'm going to scroll up to show you where some of the other options are. You'll see the next tab is Industries. I'm going to click on that tab at the top. And you'll see not much has changed, or nothing really visible has changed on the map. However, and I'm scrolling in and out here using my mouse, and so that's why the view just changed. I'm going to click back on Pulaski County, the same county I clicked before, and you'll see this time when the pop-up box pops up, it shows the different industries that are within that county. And these aren't all the industries that we even measure. You can drill down a lot more in some of the other tools that we have, but this gives you a great snapshot, again, of the industries within this particular county. I also just wanted to point out that there's a tool you'll notice at the bottom of these boxes. There's a compare button. It'll kind of walk you through how to do that, but you can compare several different counties. You can look at several different topics. So that's a good feature maybe to try out. You can also use the print button, and that'll help you there too. I think this map feature, and well, I'm going to click on the compare button. So you'll see here's another screen that will walk you through how to do this. I'm going to click Get Started. But on this tool, well, let me go and give you an example too. So I'm going to click, it has Pulaski County at the top. I could click this, add some more counties. So I'm going to just give you an example, click on the Add Topic. And I'm going to click on, so it gives me a list of industries, but as you scroll through the list, it'll give a lot of other things. I'm going to click on Construction. So it gives me the figure there. But then the feature I wanted to show you too is that you can embed this on your website. So there again, you'll see the little bracket symbol, and that will give you the code that then you could download or copy and paste onto your website. So I'm just going to close that using the X. And then I'm going to close this pop-up box too using the X and scroll back at the top. You'll see there are several other tabs here at the top. Scroll through those, you'll see they each give a little bit more information on the demographic side of those particular counties. Now I'm going to take you back to the Census Bureau's homepage and show you the next item. Again, this was the County Business Patterns and Demographics map. Very interactive, lots of information there. So I'm going to click U.S. Census Bureau at the top, take us back to the homepage. The next item I'm going to show you is one of our more comprehensive tools. So I've been trying to guide you from some of the simpler to now more of the comprehensive. So the next item is the American FactFinder. To find that on our site, if you use these tabs at the top of the page, click on or roll over the one that says Data, and then you'll see the second link says American FactFinder. So I'm going to click there. American FactFinder has been a tool that we've used on our site for more than a decade now. We're actually transitioning right now from an old version of FactFinder to a new one. We had a webinar yesterday about that transition. So I'm not going to go into a ton of detail about FactFinder today. We'll have that webinar archived online probably in the next few days, so you can go back and refer to that as well. But just so you know, in case you missed yesterday, this page for now until January 20th will exist, so this will show you or this is where it'll take you to. And then, so the FactFinder 2, .census.gov link at the bottom is where you'll want to click. So that January 20th, that's when the old FactFinder goes away. So I've clicked on that FactFinder 2 link, and it takes me to the home page of FactFinder. There's several different ways you can go into FactFinder to find all sorts of different statistics. But just to show you a few quick ones, right in the center of the page, there's this blue Quick Start box. You can enter a topic or table name, or I'm going to just enter geography. Say I'm interested in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm going to start typing in Boston. You might notice that it pops up this little drop down that suggests to me, which Boston do I mean. So since I'm just interested in the city of Boston, I'm going to find that in the menu. I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to click Go. And then it'll take me to the search results page. So you'll see over on the right, it gives me this long list of what are actually table names. You'll notice that also on the right, there's this data set column. So this is telling me where these tables come from. The one at the top, for example, 2010 Demographic Profile, SF, this is from the 2010 census. Then you'll see some others below that say 2010 ACS. That's that American Community Survey I mentioned. You might notice there's also these different years. It says 2010 ACS 1-year estimates, 3-year estimates, 5-year estimates. You should know, and I'll point you to where you can find a lot more information about the American Community Survey and what that means. But just so you know, the larger the area, you'll have one-year estimates. Smaller areas, because they're smaller, we need to pool together the information over a longer period of time. So then you'll have the options for 3 or 5 only if you have a smaller area. Just so you know, if you have a large area like Boston, it's going to have all 3. So I'm going to take, by way of example, the most current information, which would be the estimates that cover just 1 year, so all of 2010. The very top items that load in this search results page usually give you sort of the broadest snapshot of a particular area. For example, I'm going to select a few different tables and show you that range of information that each has. I'm going to select, and I'm going to do that by clicking on this and checking the box just to the left of the item. The very first one is that profile. So it's going to give me a profile of various population and housing characteristics from the 2010 census. But I'm also going to select some of these from the ACS because they're going to give me a lot more detail. For example, the third one down tells me selected social characteristics. That's where you're going to see things like education and language. Then I'm also going to look for the one that says selected economic characteristics as another example. And that one will show us things about income and health insurance coverage, etc. So once I've selected the number of tables I'm interested in by checking the box, then I'm going to click the View button at the top of that list. You'll see it'll take a moment to load. And now it's pulled up that very first profile I had selected. It'll just show you the one table at a time that you've selected. To look at the others, you'll use the result one of 3 or however many it is for you. Click the arrows. I'm going to just scroll down the page first to familiarize you with this one first. Above the table, you'll see that it says Geography, and it has a drop-down box. This one just says Boston City, because that's all I've selected so far. You'll see this profile has a range of information about sex and age, race, Hispanic origin, relationship, some other information about housing characteristics. So I'm scrolling through quickly just to kind of give you an overview of what type of topics are available. I'm now going to scroll back up to the top and show you then the next table. So I'm using those arrows in the upper right corner, result 1 of 3. So I'm going to click to the next table I had selected, which is the social characteristics. Again, this is from the American Community Survey. It gives us some more information about relationship, but it gives us things that aren't on the 2010 census. Things like marital status, fertility, grandparents, school enrollment, educational attainment, veteran status, and the list goes on. So this profile in particular is a great place to start if there are a few of those high-level things that you want about a particular geography. Next, I'm going to click to the third one and just give you a quick overview of that profile as well. This one shows economic characteristics. I'm going to zoom down pretty quickly here too, but you'll see it says employment status, various detail about that, commuting to work, income and benefits here in the middle of the column, or in the middle of the table, and then things like health insurance coverage, and finally poverty. Again, another great place to go. Once you're on these tables, you'll see there are some other options at the top. Two to maybe particularly pay attention to is the print button. Gives you several options there. You can also download the table into Excel or a CSV format if you're comfortable with that or familiar with that. If I want to go back to the main part of FactFinder, say, okay, these tables are good, but maybe I want even a little more information, click on this Back to Search box at the upper left of the page. So I'm going to do that now, Back to Search. And you'll see it brings us back to the search results page. One other thing to pay attention to is this blue Your Selections box in the upper left corner of the page. The only thing so far I've selected as far as a filter in my search is the location, Boston. This box will also track as you search by other things. The other things you could search by, for example, are in these light blue boxes that are on the left, just below that Your Selections box. I could use this search within results for. box and type in something like poverty or income, whatever topic I might be interested in. Or I could use this topics box. You'll see it's expanded with some different options. I could use these first couple and sort of narrow down the topic about a particular subject. I could also choose a year. Say I'm interested in data from 2000 as opposed to 2010. I want to look back. I could use that. You could also even search by data set. So if you just want to look within the American Community Survey or one of our other surveys, you could use that. Then there's the Geographies box. If you click on that, it'll open up a pop-up box where I could go through and add a lot more geographies. Say I don't want just Boston, but maybe I want all cities within Massachusetts, or I want to look at counties, or maybe I want to compare some other cities in other states. It will let me go through and add all of those. Again, I would encourage you to maybe check out that American FactFinder webinar that we had yesterday once that's archived in the next few days, and that will go into even more detail. So I think that covers the major data tools that are on our website, but I want to show you just a few more things back on our home page. So I'm going to click back at U.S. Census Bureau at the top of the page again. And I want to walk you through in a little more detail about these different options that are at the very top of the page, the navigational choices. I'm scrolling over the people one, and you'll notice that it gives me a whole list of different topics. Many of these are already in one of the tools I just showed you, either in QuickFacts or in American FactFinder. However, some of these have reports associated with them or other tables that aren't in one of those tools. So you might want to scroll through some of these as well if you're interested in a particular topic. One item that I know might be of interest this year, as far as news, is voting and registration. So in this alphabetical list, I'm going to click on voting and registration. And this takes me to a page that has some information about voting and registration and people's participation that comes from the current population survey, another one of those annual surveys I mentioned earlier. It's actually a monthly survey, and so during November of a congressional or a presidential election year, we'll actually add some questions and ask about whether people were registered to vote or whether they did actually vote. If you're interested in, say, comparing with this year's presidential election in mind, you might want to focus in on the figures and the tables from November 2008. Of course, presidential election years typically have a higher turnout than just a simply congressional one, so that'll give you a little more fair comparison as you're going forward. Then I'm just going to click on the detailed tables link. You could certainly click on these other items, and I'm going to show you what's there. You'll see that it gives you a long list of tables that talk about, say, the race and age of the population. For example, if you want to compare young voters versus older voters, it'll give information for the United States, but also for states individually. And you'll see it has some other characteristics like educational attainment that also come into play, or employment status. So feel free to take a look at those. I'm going to click back. I should also point out, and you'll see the note here too, that these data do not provide estimates of partisanship, so we're not asking people about who they actually supported or voted for, or maybe what party that they aligned with. These do not ask about that. It's just strictly about whether they were voting or whether they voted and whether they were registered. So I'm going to take you back to the Census Bureau's homepage. I'm going to scroll over to the People tab, the Business one. Again, some of these topics are already covered in the Economic Indicators dashboard. Some are in that County Business Patterns interactive map. But again, here you'll see some things that aren't in one of those tools. For example, here's a governments link. That'll take you that information I mentioned about the health of state and local governments and what they're spending on, what their revenue comes from, etc. The Geography tab has some various resources that might help you. For example, this link to has a long name, but the acronym we call is TIGER. It's a lot easier to say. TIGER has some shape files, so if your outlet likes to do your own interactive maps, you can download these shape files and then download our data and marry them together, and that will help. There's also some other maps, and if you like to do a lot of analysis about tracks, so you want to look at a particular neighborhood and how it might be changing. You might want to click through some of these maps and mapping resources links that will take you to reference maps that will show you, all right, this particular neighborhood within these streets corresponds with certain tract numbers that the Census Bureau uses, and then you can go and search through American FactFinder to find data about that particular area. The data tab we already kind of covered, the Quick Facts, American FactFinder, and there's some other tools there as well. Finally, I want to take you to the newsroom. The newsroom is actually one of the next parts of our website that will see a major facelift in the coming months. But you'll still be able to find many of the same resources that you're used to from us before. I'm going to click on the newsroom. And then I'm going to click on, there's all kinds of tools here. One item in this tab is for tip sheets. So I'm going to click that tip sheet tab. This is a great place to check out what's coming up in the next few weeks from the Census Bureau. It gives you a little more information than maybe you might, well, the things I showed you on the slider and the news releases typically are about something that's going on right now, but the tip sheet gives you a great heads up about what may be coming out in the next couple of weeks or in the next month. Those come out every other Friday. I think the next one's coming out this Friday, in fact, so stay tuned for that. Another item is this Facts for Features. I'm going to click on that link. Facts for Features is where we go in and we collect, or we sort of put together all in one place a list of fun facts about a holiday or other milestone. One to watch out for is in the coming weeks is about the Super Bowl. Once the two teams are determined, we'll be releasing a special edition about the cities that those two teams are from, plus Indianapolis. So stay tuned for that. It's always a fun one every year. We try to create these with enough lead time that if you're from a magazine or you're trying to plan out your feature coverage, that you'll have this available early in your planning. Then I'm going to click on this News Releases tab. So here's where you'll find all the latest releases. These are also show up on that home page. But one other important thing to take a look at is over on the right, in red, you'll see this embargoed releases link. We have restarted our embargo release policy in the last year. I know I get calls from folks sometimes who say, hey, I used to have access, but I can't get in now. Well, if you haven't renewed your access or applied through this page, essentially in the last several months, you'll want to go ahead and do that so that you can get in. If you've been getting 2010 census data this year through embargo, then you're good to go. Just folks maybe who haven't done this in a couple of years, you'll need to do it again. Here, this is also the page where you not only can you apply, the big register here link, but this is also where you go to sign in to get those embargoed releases. And then finally, I will, the Contact Us page over here, but I'll show you those numbers in a moment. So I'm going to go back to the Census Bureau's page, and I think that sums up all of our key tools that I wanted to show you today. So I'm going to bounce back to our PowerPoint, and you'll see me kind of scroll very quickly through. This is what awaits you on our press kit page. These are here for your these slides that I haven't gone through because I've been showing a live demo are here for your reference. I'm just going to bounce through to the very end to show you our contact page. I have a number here not only for folks who are in news media, but also I know we had a lot of interest from folks who are not members of the media who wanted to listen in today. So there's also a 1-800 number for you to call. So with that, I will open it up to questions. We are going to limit questions to members of the media today. We ask that you limit your questions to just one and one follow-up so we can make sure everybody gets a chance. I will try to do my best to answer. If you have subject matter questions, I'll try to do my best to answer. I have a couple other people in the room who can help me out if it goes beyond what I know. But if you have something maybe that's really specific about your city or town, I would ask you maybe go ahead and give us a call at that 301-763-3030 number, and we can help you more individually that way. So with that, operator, I think we'd like to open up to questions.
Thank you. If you would like to ask a question, please press *1. To withdraw your question, press *2. Once again, to ask a question, please press then 1. Our first question comes from Amy Taxon with the Associated Press. Your line is open.
Thank you. This is actually really helpful, but I do have a question. Using the Census 2000 data, I've often gone, and you just go to any kind of search function, Google or anything, you can type in a zip code and pull up this fantastic list of all this data. And you can get it by sort of text information, and you can get it by mapping function. Is there any comparable tool at this point for ACS data or Census 2010 data, either that has like a quick list or a mapping function at the zip code or tract level?
On the zip code or tract level. And for the tracts, are you looking for
even zip code
throughout the nation or just a particular?
I mean, zip code would be even great, because I usually use zip code just as, because you can use a zip code and you can pull up a map, and then you yourself can figure out the tracts without kind of having to know the numbers of each of them. I don't know how else to describe it to you, but I've had a hard time pulling up data even by zip code, let alone getting a map for it.
Yeah, the mapping feature I don't think is there. I think I can say that fairly certainly about zip codes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, actually I think that interactive map has some zip code level information. I'm going to bring up Rob Chestnut. He works with our FactFinder staff, and let's let him see if he can answer this too.
We can give you some in the American FactFinder. If you were to click on from the main page, if you look over on the right-hand side, you'll see an address search that I'm pointing at right here, about halfway down on the right-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
And if we click on that, we can enter an address. So you could enter an address here. After you've entered the address, we'll give you a list of geographies that contain that address. So if we entered an address, we would get the state that it's within, the county that address is within, the place, the block, the tract. So we would get all that information. You could select one of those items and then click on the map tab, and it would show you the boundaries for that item. So all that's going to do is kind of give you a reference map for the data. But then once you selected that geography, it would be added up here to your selections list. So just if we click here on the map tab, you'll see that it is Boston City, Massachusetts has been selected, and we'll see the boundaries here. So all that does is just give us a reference map for it. But once you actually go back in and open up one of the tables like Stacy was doing earlier, then you can actually get data specifically for that table. And then you can actually create a thematic map if you would like to. So if you wanted to take in one of those data elements that you found as part of one of those tables, you can take and actually there's a way to create a map and add that and view and create a map thematically. All of that information and how to walk through that and to do those, you can find up here in our help content, and there actually are a few tutorials that will help you walk through selecting those geographies and some of those maps.
Thanks.
Our next question comes from Kitty Bennett with New York Times. Your line is open.
Hi, Stacy. Thanks very much. This has really been a helpful presentation. Could you walk through just how you can quickly compare several geographies? Like, for example, say I wanted to know the percentage of people without health insurance in all states and rank them high to low. What's the quickest way to do that?
Let's see. Again, with FactFinder, there's several different ways you could go through all at once. I think I have a geographic comparison table about that. I'm looking at Rob about health insurance.
It doesn't really matter what the data is, just any way to compare, for example, states on any kind of data point. I just threw that out as an example. It doesn't really matter.
Well, one thing I want to show you is a type of table we call geographic comparison table. So to do that, I'm going to just clear out what I've selected previously. I'm going to hit the clear all selections button, or I could hit that orange and white X. So bear with me as it does that. And then over on the left in that topics box, one of the choices is product type. So I'm going to hit the little plus sign for that. And then you'll see it gives me these different things. So some of those like data profiles, those are the ones I was really focusing in on during the presentation. And another great one is this geographic comparison table. So I'm going to click that. And it's going to give me the whole long list on the right of all the different types of geographic comparison tables. But maybe let's say I do want to do health insurance, so I'm going to narrow it down here in this search within results for. I'm just going to type in health insurance. I'm going to kind of ignore the little options it's giving me for the moment, just so you'll see the full list. So I just typed in health insurance, hit go, and it'll take a moment to update again. So you'll see then it gives me this list of different options, so percent without health insurance coverage. And then each of these has a little bit about geography. So within the United States, it's looking at urbanized areas, but let's say you want maybe states, or how about like cities. So I'm going to use this one that says percent without health insurance, United States, places by state. Places, that's just a Census Bureau term for city or town. So I'm going to just click right on the title. I could also check the box next to it. But I'm going to click on the title, and it'll take a moment, and it'll load that too. And then as you scroll down the page, you'll see that it gives me the list in alphabetical order by state and then the cities within each state. We don't create like a ranking table for cities, but if you want to create a ranking table, essentially, you could use the download button and you could download that into Excel or a CSV format, and then you could rank them. Does that kind of help with that? So
it does.
Yeah, GCPs are a good place to go for comparing quickly.
Once again, to ask a question, please press *1. Elibarta with Bravo, your line is now open.
Yes, hi, thank you. We're interested in the Hispanic data. However, we want to know if there is availability of Hispanic information at the DMA level or designated market area. We've just have had a hard time. For example, we wanted to look at, okay, how many Hispanics are in the LA DMA. We know that there are more than 7 million Hispanics there. However, when we try to search on the population tab here at Census for Hispanics, we can only search for county or city, and both of them, give you really low numbers, close to 4 million, and we just need the updated number on how many Hispanics are in LA as a DMA. So we don't know what's the most the closer term that you have in Census for designated market area or DMA, which is the term that Simmons uses or Nielsen for where to place advertising in a certain area. And then the other thing is that for Hispanic, we want to find other indicators, like language preference or country of origin, and we cannot find it again at the DMA level or even at the highest national level.
Great questions. The DMA is actually not one of the Census Bureau geographies that I'm aware of that we support or have data by. Maybe one of the closest equivalents would be like a metro area or metropolitan statistical area. You'll see that abbreviated MSA. So let me guide you to that. That might help. If you knew the boundaries of your particular DMA, we might be able to help you piece together using counties or cities or even tracts, piece that together more precisely. But I think the metro area might be the closest just geography that's packaged already for you. So from here, I'm going to hit back to search. So I'm still within FactFinder. That's probably a great place to go for your question. And I'm going to clear my selections again in the upper left just so it's ready to restart with this. And now I'm going to show you how to go through and select using the Geographies box. So over on the left in those light blue boxes, I'm going to click on Geographies, and it's going to pop up a little window. Here again, there's several different ways you could search. I'm going to, over on the left, there's this Geography filter options. I'm going to click on Metro Micro Area in that blue list. And then it's going to update my options, but rather than scroll through all of this, I'm going to try to narrow it down a little further. Okay, I'm going to just do, oh wait, I think it was giving me already. So I've just tried to start typing in Los Angeles, and it already suggests me the metro area, so I'm going to click on that one, the Los Angeles Long Beach one. I'm going to hit go. And you'll see that'll update my options on the right, so I've narrowed it down. And I'm going to check the box next to that, so the Los Angeles metro area. I'm going to click Add. And then you'll notice that's added that to that Your Selections box that's behind this page. So now I can close this geography window out using that X in its upper right corner. And then again, for you, once you've selected the metro area, for the types of things you're asking about, like just the total number of Hispanics, a great place for that, again, would be that profile that's the very top of the list. As far as the language, I would use that selected social characteristics profile that also shows up at the top of the list now. So I've checked both of those. I'm going to hit View. So for this metro area, as I scroll down the page, I'm scrolling past the age and race stuff or data, and then it has the Hispanic or Latino section. So for the LA metro area, there's about 5.7 million Hispanics. And I'm going to scroll back up and show you the table so I'm going to use those results, one of two arrows over here on the upper right. That'll take me to that social profile that's from the American Community Survey. And as I scroll down, there will be a section on language here too. So here's the section on language. It tells you the number of people who speak English only, for example, and then this is the margin of error. You'll see margins of error we post for all of the survey results.
But one question, but that's not for Hispanic specific, right?
Correct. So there's even another feature, another type of table that you could pull up a profile of by a different race or ethnic group. Let me show you that too real quick. Here's where you can find for the total population. I'm going to hit back to search. And other folks might be interested in this as well. This next option that I'll show you, it relates to one of the items that we're having roll out almost on a weekly basis over the next few months is from Summary File 2 from the 2010 census. That shows additional 2010 census information by a specific population group. So to find that or to find what I'm about to show you, I'm going to click on population groups. It gives me another pop-up box that looks very similar to the one for that pops up for geography. So I'm going to start typing in Hispanic, and you'll see it gives me options. I'm going to click this one, Hispanic or Latino of any race. I'm going to hit Go. And then you'll see it gives me that option. I'm just going to click it. It's going to add it to that box behind here. So it's tracking what I'm doing, and then I'm going to close it. And then what now pops up at the top, so I've narrowed it down to the area I'm looking for and the particular population group I'm looking for. And now you can use one of these selected population profiles. I'm going to check the box and click View. Okay. So this now specifically talks about the Hispanic population within that metro area. And as you scroll down, you'll see there's the education and all sorts of things like that, and then there's a language section here as well. So that tells you specifically among the Hispanic or Latino population in that area, here's the number, or the percent rather, that speak English or speak a language other than English. So if you have more detailed questions to that, feel free to give us a call, and we can kind of help walk you through those too. But that kind of gives some high-level insight into that.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Great, sure.
And our last question comes from Colleen O'Day with Morris County Patch.
Yes, hi. I wanted to, well, I don't want to be mean, but I really like the old FactFinder, so I keep struggling with the new one. One of the problems that I'm having is downloading, I guess it's large amounts of data. Let's say I'm trying to get all the data for all the towns in a given county. You know, often I will find that after I download, when I click on it, I'll get a file not completely loaded. I'm just wondering what's the best way to do that. Is there an easy way to do it?
So you have touched on something that it sounds like one that we've identified as a defect. We have a problem right now where we do download some of these large files and we'll get it and it will get 0 bytes in the file or something like that. It opens up and says that. So that's one thing that we're aggressively trying to pursue to see what the problem is. It seems like with some of them, if we do it for the individual geographies, it seems to work, but whenever we're doing these large geographies, the download doesn't complete building before it actually downloads it. So that is one thing that we're working on right now. It seems if you do download one geography at a time, it works better. Or if you're not using the, if you're using those profiles, these demographic profiles or these selected population profiles, these are very large products, and it's actually made up of multiple detail tables. So the download is actually going and picking up data from all of these detail tables to build this download. So it is a very large download, and it takes it some time, and sometimes it just times out. So it's one of the things we're working on, and hopefully within the next couple of weeks we should have a resolution for that. And then I also want to just mention, while we have a lot of people on, and we can tell you it's a good time to share that right now the Census Bureau and the FactFinder supports IE7 for a browser and Firefox 3.5. We have noticed with some of the other browsers we have some download problems with those too. So IE7, not IE7 or higher, but IE7 or Firefox 3.5 or higher are the only two browsers that American FactFinder can currently support. And that's another issue that we're working here at the Bureau to try to get new software so that we can actually test and have FactFinder support those other browsers.
So would you suggest in the interim to just try to get, I guess, the smallest table possible if you're looking for multiple geographies?
If you're looking for multiple geographies and you're just looking for like maybe one item, and the demographic profile or these selected population profiles have a lot of data in them about a whole slew of different subjects. If you're just looking for one subject in particular, like housing occupancy status or something like that, and it's just one of those small subjects that these tables may have that information in it too, it's better to go to those detailed tables, and we seem to have less problem on those smaller tables.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm showing no further questions at this time.
Okay, well, I will, maybe we'll give them one more moment just to see if there are any further questions. And I just want to alert you about a couple other things that are coming out. One, I mentioned 2010 Census Summary File 2 that gives a lot of detail about from the 2010 census, but by specific population groups. Those are coming out. We just released some information for Connecticut and D.C., the District of Columbia today. We'll have more rolling out to the other states through April, through the spring. So stay tuned for that. Another thing is, I think next week we're having a webinar about the population estimates program. I'm looking at my colleagues to confirm that next week is correct. So that'll be another webinar that'll talk about our population estimates program, all the different releases that are coming out from that. That program basically gives us an update every year throughout the decade to the population total for your state, for your county, and for sub-county geographies like places. So stay tuned for that. All right. Operator, any further questions?
There are no further questions.
Okay, great. Well, I'll just pop up our contact slide one more time. So if you do have any other questions, please feel free to contact us offline. Also, stay tuned. Look for, in that slider on the home page, look for the link to today's webinar, or you can find it through the news releases section, and you'll find the slides from today. It's a great resource to go back to, hopefully for you. And then we will be posting an archived version of this webinar in the coming days as well. All right, with that, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for participating in today's conference. You may disconnect at this time.